What's up, agency owners? Jason Swenk here with another episode of the Smart Agency Masterclass, a podcast dedicated for helping digital agency owners scale faster by sharing other people's stories. Well, today I have an amazing guest. We're going to talk about how she forced getting out of the business and really working on the business rather than in it. So it's a really great episode, how she found her passion, all that. So let's go ahead and jump into it. Hey, Jessie, welcome to the show.
Hey, Jason, great to be here. I'm so excited. I've been listening for years, so it's amazing to be actually on the show.
Oh, well, awesome. Well, I'm thrilled to have you on. So tell us who you are and what do you do?
Hi, I'm Jessie Healy. I'm the founder and CEO of Webtopia. We are a digital agency specializing in e-com growth for sustainable and purpose-driven product brands. So we help product brands kind of transform themselves into highly successful e-commerce businesses by lighting a fire under their digital advertising.
Awesome. Tell us a fun fact about how you started this agency.
Oh, yeah. So, again, you always talk about the accidental agency owner. That is for sure me. So, when I was 7.5 months pregnant, I lost my job. The company I was working for went under. The guy was a complete, I mean, it was crazy. That's a whole story for another day. But there was no money to pay us, even our last paycheck. And I was the main breadwinner in my family, or my soon to be family that I was about to have. So I quickly started freelancing, and I'd always wanted to and thought about it, but I just didn't know whether, how do people get business and how do people get clients? And I put a note out on a forum or something. This was 5 years ago. My son just started school. And yeah, I got tons of work straight away, like while I was, huge pregnant. And it all just kind of rolled from there. So I had my year's maternity leave, as we usually have in the UK, but I spent about at least 2 days a week of that maternity leave doing freelance stuff because I was really passionate and I found the baby groups a little bit boring. So I was balancing motherhood, and then as it grew and grew, I realized there was probably an agency here, and I kind of wanted to fill a gap in the market that I had always noticed because I'd always worked client side. I was hiring and firing agencies. At one point, I used to work for Etsy, and I had a budget of $10 million a year to spend. We were paying our agency $32,000 at that time, and still my my main contact, the most senior kind of escalation point, he would not show up to calls. I would have to like ring the reception. They'd chase him down in the building. He's disappeared. We're not sure where he is. $32,000 a month. And that's how I was getting treated by the agency. So I felt like there was a gap in the market. I felt there was a lot of agencies in the digital space that were kind of set and forget rather than actually really leaning forward and helping clients with strategy. So from the get-go, we started working with quite small e-coms, but we would really be like their outsourced marketing department and really kind of be thinking for them about what they needed to do strategically to grow. Um, and that it's all just kind of really snowballed from there. We've always leaned into being very strategic with creative, with messaging, even though we're primarily a performance marketing agency. We sort of balance that creative storytelling side with the science of digital media buying, which a lot of agencies, I think, especially in the early days, more focused on the science of digital media buying, but not really so much on the creative. But we've always done both, and we've got teams doing both things who are specialists in their own area. And I think that's why we've been so successful. And the other reason is also definitely niching down. So I've always been really clear about my own values, about the environment, my worries about what's happening with climate change, and wanting to work with brands that I believe in and that share our values about making the world a better place. And the more I leaned into that messaging on LinkedIn and talked about that and started doing things within the agency, like supporting charities and helping sponsor the planting of forests, all that kind of stuff, the more I would attract leads to me. And now the majority of our clients now are very much leaning into that kind of ethical or sustainable space. So it's really exciting.
Very cool. What is, everyone has kind of a turning point in their agency, whether it be a huge mistake you made that turned into a lesson that also kind of got you on the right path. Is there a particular big mistake that you made that really you look back and going, man, I'm so glad I made that mistake, and it really drove the agency forward?
Yeah, I think I mean, for me in the early days, I was this freelancer and I had, I was this young mom and I had, I was balancing all of that, all of the things. And I thought, wouldn't it be great to have like a group of freelance moms who I work with, and then, I can be this agency, but it's super flexible because if we don't have many clients, we just don't have as many freelancers. But what happened was once I got to a certain size and I had a certain number of freelancers to manage, my life was hell and I just couldn't cope because I was constantly chasing around after freelancers. I was having to attend every meeting because I wanted to have some consistency. Um, in one case, I had one freelancer who I trusted to be with the client on her own, and they ended up trying to like work together, around me, even though we'd contracted against that. So that was kind of a slow lesson that I realized that actually if I was to have, work-life balance and be able to grow the agency, I had to have like an in-house team who were permanent. Even though we're a fully remote agency, all of my team, bar a couple of people who work maybe part-time, are all full-time team members who are dedicated to the agency, dedicated to our growth, committed to our processes, online when we need them to be, and really kind of part of what Team Webtopia is all about. So that was a key turning point, is taking on full-time staff, investing in them, and taking that risk, I guess, of that payroll you've got to meet every month.
And then tell me about when you decided to really kind of niche down and really kind of follow your passion rather than like, when we all start, we're accidental and we're kind of doing anything and everything coming from us. Like our business is probably based on referrals. What happened when you really started getting laser focused?
Yeah, so I mean, in the very early days, I was like, I'll do anything for £50 an hour, which is crazy to think about now. I would do like really boring paid search tasks and things like that, as long as the client was willing to pay that pittance of a rate. But sorry, what was the question? I've lost my thread.
No, no sweat. What made you decide on a niche?
Oh yeah. So I watched an amazing webinar with Kat Howell, and she talked about the net, niching down and how it meant you could have repeatable processes. So that was when I was like, well, I've been working with ecom. I love ecom. In my career in digital marketing prior to starting the agency, I'd always been very, very focused on, consumer marketing, not B2B marketing. And so that made sense. E-commerce made a lot of sense. So that's what we niched down to initially. And then it was like over the kind of coming years, first of all, I noticed we were working with a lot of female founders, and I was noticing that they were definitely brands that sort of shared our values in a general sense. And then as I started putting out more content around, sustainability and that kind of thing, that was when I noticed we started, I guess, repelling brands that weren't sustainable, and definitely winning ones that were, and realizing we had a kind of a talent for working with the types of audiences they were trying to target, the types of creative that works for those audiences, and kind of getting better and better at what we were doing, the brands as well.
Talk about, let's switch focus a little bit because you moved 12 hours away from where your clients and your audience or
24 hours 24 hours plane ride and 12 hours time difference. Yeah.
it's crazy. And so let's talk about, because there's a lot of people listening right now that they're in the business and they're constantly working in the business.
Yeah.
They're project managing, they're selling, they're, doing all the stuff that your team should be doing. How did
Yeah.
you force getting out of that role?
Yeah. So, I mean, it was before I left for New Zealand. And also, like, the thing to bear in mind too, this was 7 months ago. So, New Zealand was still, the borders were still closed to the rest of the world. So, it was one way, one ticket, one way. It was no way out. Once I was in, I wouldn't be able to leave because I wouldn't get back in again. So, it felt like a really final move. Like, we couldn't go, oh, we just changed our mind. We'll just pop back on the plane. Um, but yeah, so prior to the move, I spent about a year planning it. But I would say prior to that move, even up till the day I left, really, I used to say I felt like I was chained to my desk. Like I had Zooms throughout the day. My calendar would just be full. I'd be jumping in on so many client meetings to kind of help out. I had a key team member who had really severe long COVID. So I kind of just took over his role for the longest time. Um, and it seemed like it would be impossible. But what I did do is hire key team members. So that's my advice to everyone is don't be shy about hiring senior people in your business who have the experience, who have done it before, who can take stuff off you properly, and you're not having to kind of teach them absolutely every little thing. So I have a head of delivery, or we call it head of paid social strategy, a head of Google ad strategy, a head of operations, and I have a commercial director. So those are my 4 kind of leadership roles. And between them, they're managing the sales, the kind of general operations of the business, and then the client account management kind of operations. So I won't lie to you. There are still some clients who want me and who when there's things going wrong, they want to have a quick meeting with me or a quick catch up. And so that's where I make my time available 2 nights a week. So I'm very strict in the boundaries. Like my calendar has this clearly available time 2 nights a week where I'm available to clients and I'm available to the team. The rest of the time, unless it's an absolute emergency, I'm not available, because if I didn't do that, I would be working every night and every day, and it would be crazy. So that strict boundary is quite easy to keep because I physically just don't want to be working in the evenings. So yeah, so I hired those people. I got them, used to their roles and warmed up, and then kind of slowly backed away from the clients. And now the new clients coming into the agency aren't being sold by me. They're being sold by my commercial director. And that means that they're not kind of emotionally attached to me when they're onboarded. So, bar the odd email and, what they might see of me on LinkedIn, they don't feel like I'm the reason why, their campaigns are working or not working. So I think that's a big thing. So you could do all of that stuff without having to move to another time zone. It would be just about setting those boundaries really clearly. I've heard of CEOs that have available and unavailable times in their calendar. And I have that, but people know I'm actually genuinely asleep. So it definitely could be done. And like, I would hope that even if I hadn't moved, I would have made more moves in this way, because being chained to your desk all day and literally not having time to go and pee or eat is not a healthy way to be. I was building my agency, sure, and it was a pandemic. There was nowhere else really that fun to be at the time. But now I want to enjoy my life, and I want to enjoy my family, and I want to do fun things. So here I am in New Zealand, and I can just decide to go for a swim in the lake. I'm going to be skiing once a week on Wednesdays with my son's school, and that's not going to be hard to coordinate with my calendar. Like, I can do all of these wonderful things in the outdoors that I want to be doing. And I know that my team's taking care of stuff.
Bravo. I mean, I'm thrilled to hear that, because a lot of people listening, all they care about is hitting a certain number and keep going on that number, but they don't know why they want to hit that number, rather than
Yeah.
building the business around themselves so they can actually go do things. And it really starts with creating rules.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you created rules of, hey, I got 2 day or 2 nights a week. You can book a time and I can, have some meetings. And also too, I mean, it was kind of extreme, moving,
Yeah.
the kind of a one way, for all of you listening, you don't have to do that. But if you pretend that you did that and you create the rules and you hire the right people, like those 4 key roles. And I want to talk about kind of, where did you find them? Because a lot of people listening, they're going, they're struggling with finding people. And I'm like, there's people out there, but what you're doing is you're not even listing the job posting, or you're listing it on a job site. You're looking for people that already have job, or don't have jobs, which are probably not the ones you
Yeah.
want. So the
Yeah.
4 key roles, where did you find them? How long did it take? And did you have to overpay them from what you were used to?
Yeah, so they came from a mixture of places. So 2 of them were like promotions from within the business. So our head of paid social strategy, she came in as a media buyer about a year and a half ago, and she just showed a ton of promise, both as a manager but also strategically, and lots of ambition and commitment to the business. Our head of Google, so again, my head of operations looks after recruitment now. So I give her ideas, but she looks after it. but I know that the process is a mixture of, we post the job on LinkedIn. We've tested different job sites, but LinkedIn works best for us. We post the job in lots of groups for remote work. We post the job, we do outreach. So I think if I recall correctly, he came from outreach. So we do, LinkedIn outreach messages that look like they come from me, that have a really kind of enticing job description and all of that. And so, yeah, so we do outreach. And actually, because I'm now looking at kind of LinkedIn automation tools for lead generation for the business. I'm thinking that these could really automate and expand our outreach process for recruiting. And then once we actually get a candidate that looks interesting, we've got like a really cleverly built out kind of funnel, if you will. So it starts with asking them to give some written answers to questions. We're always pushing them through our recruitment funnel using kind of marketing language like, congratulations, you're through to the next round. What we need you to do is do this. So we don't want them to not complete because it seems difficult. We want to give them a sense that like, oh, you might have a chance here. But we do push them through a ton of hoops. So first of all, written answers, because we need to know that they've got like really, that they've got a great they can express themselves well in a written format, which is key to the role. Then we ask for a video. We use video ask. Then if they kind of sound all right and come across okay, then they'd be invited for a first kind of screening interview with like HR. And then if they do well on that, we give them an exercise. So if it's depending on, what the role is, we give them an exercise that's really similar to what would their role be. And then finally, they have interviews with key team members. So that process kind of weeds out a lot of people. And we're at every point, we're screening for like the technical skills, but also for a values match. So we're really clear about what our values are and making sure that the people match them. Where we've made bad hires in the past, they might have had really strong technical skills because it's pretty hard to get through, into our team, into our business without having them, but they haven't matched our values, and that's where it hasn't worked out. So now we're kind of actively screening for both things when we're hiring.
I
So
love it.
yeah.
Yeah. I've known a lot of mastermind members that go through that process because a lot of mastermind members, when they come in, they're spending so much time in interviews and they're interviewing the
Yeah.
wrong people. But like if you set a process like that,
Yeah.
it eliminates
Yeah.
90% of the
Yeah.
bad people because everyone
Yeah.
that's
And
going to
we use
follow that
yeah, we use
process.
exactly. I used to spend so much time in recruitment. So we use Airtable and a VA. We've got like a VA who does like 20 or 30 hours a week for us, who's amazing. She's based in India, and she's incredible. She just does all of the manual tasks related to the HR as well as other things. So we have this Airtable that's built up full of candidates that, if someone isn't successful on this year, then in a year's time, they might be someone we reach out to again. So we're really big on like doing that really well. My brother's in recruitment and he's always like, why don't you use recruitment agent? And I'm like, well, I think what we do is what they would do, and it saves us thousands and thousands.
Yeah, I love it. Well, this has all been amazing, Jessie. Thanks so much for sharing this. Is there anything I didn't ask you that you think would benefit the audience?
No, I think we've covered it. Yeah.
Awesome. What's the agency website people can go and check you guys out?
Yeah, it's www.webtopia.co. That's co, not .com. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for coming on the show. And if you guys enjoyed this episode, make sure you guys subscribe, hit that little bell button if you have that option on YouTube, or if you're on podcast, just subscribe, share it out with your friends. So to help them out and help us out. And if you want to be around amazing agency owners where you can ask the questions that you don't feel that you can find on the web, or maybe they might be able to see the things you might not be able to see, I'd love to invite you guys to apply and go to digitalagencyelite.com. Go do that now. And until next time, have a swank day.